Welcome everybody to Money, Life and Gags Episode 8 with Harry and Mark. Welcome aboard, Harry.
Mark, how are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. Very interesting week, but very good.
Interesting week. I think we're going to talk about Trump and his negotiating skills.
We sure are, which makes really interesting anecdotal, analysis of how he goes about it and things that we could adapt to everyday life.
I know. And who says that politics is boring? I'm not a big fan of
politics.
politics.
Well, it is boring. I'm not going to move away from that.
But I've got to tell you, when I watch him on TV, you look forward to the next deal and what's coming up next and how it's going to shock the world. He's pretty good at it, given that he was a businessman and nearly went bankrupt. I don't know how many years ago he had all the banks on his back and he negotiated himself out of everything.
Yeah.
And today's president.
He's a bit of a master at it, you have to say.
So.
And the tactics he uses, like, this whole tariff stuff that he uses is, he creates fear. He knows he's the biggest dog at the table. And so that gives you, like, if you're prepared to use it in the form that he does, it gives you leverage, right? And the part of the art of negotiation is working out if you have leverage or don't you have leverage. Can you create leverage? Can you create FOMO? And he's nailed it. Like this whole tariff stuff. He's got them all scrambling, and they could do the reverse tariffs, but all he's trying to do is use the tariffs to bring it to the table and let's have a sensible conversation and how I can make my country better off.
Yeah, and I think he has to do that, Mark, because $36 trillion in debt. He has to do. I mean, I think it's the only president that somehow has realised that he needs more revenue to come into the country. Because America.
Well, he's thinking like a business, right?
Well, he is.
It's like you have to have a budget surplus. You can't live in the world of budget deficit all the time.
Yeah.
You can't have 16 trillion going out and only 12 trillion coming in, and it just escalates and escalates.
And have a huge trade imbalance with everyone. So he's basically saying, I think you used the word, is it reciprocal?
Today?
Yeah.
So it was reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah.
So whatever you charge me is what we're going to charge you now.
Yeah.
So he says that's fair now.
Yeah.
So he's acknowledged the previous one was probably not that fair.
Yeah.
But this is now fair.
But do you think he's got a point though?
I haven't researched it enough to know if he's just being a bully in a global market to get the best outcomes for his country, or he's right with all these assertions. What really fascinates me, and as you know, I live in the world of negotiating all the time, as you do, is the tactics used to get outcomes. And that's really, when I observe these things, that's what they're my takeaways. To be perfectly honest, I don't care if he's right or wrong. But I don't care that much about America to the extent that,
buddy.
No, but to the extent that, like, is Trump being harsh? Is Trump this? Is Trump that? Like, I don't get caught up with that. They're things I can't control.
Yeah.
But can I learn from any of these things? Can I observe tactics, strategies, and take them away? I think I told you once I take things from TV shows. Things like Suits. I think I spoke to you about Suits. This is another situation where if you just take the emotion out of the situation and just observe it for what it is, it's negotiation and artistry. Like, you just see him. He's got them all scrambling.
But also, we can't hide the fact that he's the most powerful man in the world too. So he's got a lot of leverage.
So was Biden, and he didn't use it.
Yes.
Biden was an ATM machine.
Yeah, and so was the previous presidents before him as well. But being an American president, you've got that leverage. I mean, can you see the Prime Minister of Australia doing that?
No, but I think what's different this time, because there's a vast difference this time with Trump's second term as compared to the first time he did it. He has the strongest charter, the mandate, that a president over there has had, right?
Yes.
Like
for a very long time.
That population had enough of the Democrats, had enough of all the crap and whatnot. And so I think he's negotiating with so much confidence that I've got everyone's supporting my tactics here, so to speak. If we had a resounding win, let's say it moves to Liberal and Dutton was the winner, just hypothetically speaking, and he had such a resounding win, then he's not Trump, right? They're trying to.
It won't happen here, Mark.
But if he has a total unanimous mandate to change, then they'll make changes. And he's actually a pretty prudent operator. Now, is he a great negotiator? I've got no idea. I don't know the guy from the bar of salt. But you can see he's hard-nosed. He's been brought up with the tough side of the world, not the soft side of the world, so to speak. And
but Mark, Trump is making fundamental changes. Like these are fundamental. Even with Doge, the
Department of Government Expenditure.
Yeah, and he's got Elon Musk going into all sorts of. He went into US AID, and he found billions upon billions. He's going to hit the military. He's going to hit the educational department. He's even hitting the Senate. So he's going to find all these costs that he can rip out of the bureaucratic system. And on the other side, when it comes to international trade, he doesn't want to see trade deficits anymore. It has to be dollar for dollar. And that's what's going to save America, because I'm not too sure if you're aware. I think they said in 10 years' time, the trajectory is that if America keeps on going the way that they're spending money, there'll be no social security left in 10 years' time. They're going to go broke. So he has to do something, but the way and the manner that he's doing it, he's virtually stopped the war in Israel.
That was funny. No, did you hear how he's potentially stopping the Russia-Ukraine war?
No.
Oh, this I laughed.
Right.
Look, I have no idea whether he's actually correct or he's not, or he's telling us crap.
Yeah.
But he gets on, talks to the media, and he goes, "I had 2 phone calls.
I've heard this.
I spoke to Putin and I spoke to Zelensky.
Yeah,
it's all good. Well, peace is not far away now.
Yeah.
It's all good. I've sorted it out.
Yeah.
Just like that. Just 2 phone calls. It's all sorted.
Amazing.
So, just the level of confidence in the guy to portray these things. Now, I doubt that there's peace that quick, right? There's got to be a lot of negotiation, which I think is one of his major skill sets.
It is.
So when he thinks I'm going to impact this and whatever, I think he's backing himself that he can negotiate an outcome that stops, because I think part of him is actually compassionate. He doesn't want people dying. He doesn't want wars and that sort of stuff. As much as he's a ruthless businessman, right?
No, he cares.
There's an element that has empathy in him.
No, Trump cares.
That's what I see.
Yeah, you can actually see it. No, he actually cares. He actually wants to stop the wars too.
Yeah,
so,
he just doesn't suffer fools, and he doesn't, he doesn't like bureaucracy, and he doesn't like to be challenged. He likes to see his way. So he's got his own idiosyncrasies, but there's a part of him that you sort of endear to, or you're not endear, it's probably going overboard, but you can sort of resonate with because he's making a difference and he's doing it his way.
You almost want Trump to succeed as a template for other leaders around the world. You almost want, I actually want him to succeed, because I have this notion that if America does well, the whole world's going to do well too.
Well, there's a lot of follow me in what you're saying there. So if he breaks wokeness, for example, if he breaks that down,
which
then that'll be the start.
Which he has. He's actually legislated about this sort of stuff. There can only be 2 sexes, male or female. There's nothing in between. So he's actually signed an executive order.
I'm surprised he hasn't got Ricky Gervais on the case on that one. I'm not going to say what Ricky Gervais spoke about, but if you ever want to have a laugh about what a female is before this wokeness disruption, it's really funny. Go check that out. I think it's called Humanity, the Ricky Gervais show.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was really funny is the no more plastic straws.
Yeah, he actually signed an executive order with that as well. And it actually makes sense. Have you had these bloody plastic straws? They're absolute crap.
No, the plastic ones are good. It's the cardboard ones that are shit.
Yeah.
They go soggy, you can't drink anymore. It doesn't taste
common
properly.
Sense. Why hasn't it been thought before?
Yeah.
These are things that just
they have been thought. No one's had the balls to do it. So he's got the gumption.
Save the planet?
He's got the gumption. But you can have biodegradable stuff. It doesn't have to be pollute the planet. Just find an alternative solution that still makes it enjoyable to have a drink through a straw.
Yeah. But even these green deals that they were talking about under the Biden era, that's alt control delete now, because there's nothing in return with those. It's costing a lot of jobs. You can't get costs down. I've said this to a lot of my friends. If he succeeds, I think not only are we going to achieve world peace, but we're going to have huge economic recoveries worldwide. In my world, he has to succeed.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think the level of expenditure that the government was supporting in the country that they've exposed through this USA aid thing.
Yeah, sickening.
The list of things they read off, you just start laughing. It's ludicrous, but laughing.
What, you don't think it happens here?
I don't know if we're spending millions of dollars. What was it? One of them was, I don't know if it was Uganda or some weird country. We're helping them with tax advice. So we're paying them, they were paying them $8 million to help them get tax advice.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
What is that?
Or condoms to Gaza. Did you hear about that one too?
Dance clubs.
Yeah, clubs.
Dancing, children's dance concerts.
Supporting transgender overseas.
You know what those things are? This is why they think it's all fraud. They're buying people's support, whether it's through, what's the not Congress. What's it called? When all the leaders cut together.
The Senate.
No. You know when the global leaders come together
yes,
and you want to vote on this and vote. I reckon all these things are a bit like when the Olympics are on. You buy the votes. I reckon that's Chogham. Is it Chogham? That's the Commonwealth? I think Chogham's the Commonwealth
that's the Commonwealth one.
But the equivalent of that, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember. All the leaders catch up and whatnot. I reckon a lot of these payments are associated with, it filters down. You rub my back here, I'll rub your back there type stuff. And that's what they're just wiping out.
And I think, when you bring it back to Australia, especially in Victoria, you wonder why we're in $180 billion in debt. If someone like an Elon Musk went into Victorian Treasury, I'd love for Elon to go there just for 60 minutes. Just 60 minutes.
Well, he just turns everything off. So he has a $0 budget methodology. You just turn everything off, and whoever gasps is where you got to spend some money.
Yeah.
If they don't gasp,
you
didn't need it.
Common sense. So how do you, in your journey over the last 30, 40 years in your working life, how have you changed your negotiating tactics? Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah, I in my early days, I was very dogmatic, very my way the highway, quite aggressive. It was probably my Italian nature as well, just iron fist type stuff.
Yeah.
And in the early days, and I never lost a deal because of it. But if you do it, you could tell when people become uneasy. Like the last thing, I didn't really want to create a situation where people feared me. I wanted
you don't
respect.
want confrontation.
You want respect, but you don't want fear.
Nah.
And I started feeling like people were fearful. What's this? This guy's a loose cannon. What's he going to do to us? And so I sort of tempered that and started maturing, because I was young, and probably, immature. So I started maturing and I started just observing a lot more on negotiating, because a lot of my world is negotiating. You're either negotiating with people, with price, with property, the business, whatever it is. There's most thing, and even to bringing up my kids now, I use negotiating as an education tool. You want this? What do you give me?
Yeah.
I want this from you. This is what I'll do for you.
That doesn't work for me, by the way. But anyway, that's fine.
Look, touch wood.
Yeah.
My daughter probably doesn't give a crap at the minute, but she's a bit too young, and I don't have much leverage of her other than stuffy, fluffy toys, and as if I'm going to take that away from her. Where my boy's, he loves his phone, and so turning off access to the phone and not paying for the things, that's a little bit of leverage, right? So when he starts to talking bad to his mum or doesn't do what he should do, doesn't do his homework, that's the leverage. So we negotiate.
Under
right?
18 or over 18?
He's 14.
Oh, there you go. Try doing that when they get to 18. You're not going to have much luck.
No, you have negotiating. There's a nice comfy bed here, or there's a park bench out there. You can always find an angle to negotiate as long as they've got something to lose.
Right.
And so that was the trigger for losing the arrogance in negotiating and understanding the situation. And every negotiation, if you're going to do it, and this is my view, and I'm really keen to hear what you think, because I know you do a lot of negotiating and everything, in your professional aspect of life. But the art of negotiating for me is, do you have leverage? Can you establish leverage? And if the answer is no to both of those, then how do you still get the best outcome when you don't have leverage? And because if you have leverage, that's easy negotiating.
Very easy.
Right? But when you don't have leverage,
that's when
your skills really come to the fore. And that's probably the area I've refined over the years to still get, like I used to have a philosophy, let's both win, but I've got to win a bit more than you. Now I've lost that. Like that's actually not success. Because I've got to continue. Most of what I do, I've got to continue working with you. So they're not a binary transaction. I never have anything to do with you.
Yeah,
so if you're left with a sour taste in your mouth, or I start rubbing it in your face, or anything like that, then
there's no longevity.
Yeah, where's the goodness going to come from the deal to get the benefits of the reason I bought the business and so forth? And so now I'm more about win-win, but understanding what really is a win for that person across the tables from me, and what really is a win for me on my side of the table and our shareholders and so forth. Because sometimes people get caught up in moralistic wins, small crap that doesn't really impact anything, but they get their little wins. They want an extra photocopy machine, or they want this, or they want that. So that's where I've refined a lot. It's not easy to articulate like in a document. It's more natural because I assess the situation very quickly and just asking a few questions and so forth. You know, like if you're buying a business, obviously if somebody's interested to sell, the obvious thing is price. But sometimes that's not.
No.
The price is just an outcome of the process.
Correct.
And so you have to understand, you know, like, so one skill set I developed very quickly is, and no disrespect to anyone I bought a business from here, very quickly ascertain the family situation. Is it a husband and wife operation? You know, because I can guarantee you, if you're talking to someone about buying their business, they're going to go home and talk to their partner. If their partner's not involved in the business, they're going to go home and talk about their partner. As soon as that partner starts thinking about how they're going to spend the money and what holidays are going to take and get out of debt here and do this and do that, invariably, then you have some leverage. That's some leverage that you've created by understanding their situation. Now, if they've got a partner, do what you want, I don't care. You know, I've got my thing, you've got your thing or whatever, then it's not leverage. So you don't have to tug on the heartstrings as part of the negotiating. So you look for other avenues.
I think what I've learned, whether you've got leverage or you haven't got any leverage at all, what I've learned, you just have to be friendly, because you're not going to get a positive outcome if you're nasty.
No,
it's just not going to happen. I mean, that's been my experience. I mean, you're right. If you've got leverage, then the process is a little bit easier. But it
doesn't mean you have to abuse it, right?
No.
So because the other party will know you have leverage, but if you're still fair about it, you get great outcomes.
Yeah.
Because
you can.
And I'm talking about situations where you have to keep working. Like those people still got to be part of the transaction, post-transaction, because there's an earn out, there's a transition period. You know, it's very rare you buy something and the day you've given them the money, they just go and have nothing to do with it.
But even if
it's very rare.
Yeah, it is. But even if that was the case, you can still be friendly and not be nasty. I mean, that's what
good karma too, right?
Yeah, that's what I've learned. So when I talk to, for instance, if it's a couple involved and only the husband appears in front of me or the wife, I refuse to speak either to one or the other. They have to be both there together, because I need to read them. I need to read what's in their head. This is even before we talk about price. Usually I say, like, why are you selling? Like, I really want to understand why they're selling their business. If I get an answer in terms of why they're selling, then my role is to get them to be comfortable with me, even before we even discuss about price. So if I can build a relationship with them, then you'll find most circumstances, our second meeting will be more friendly. It'll be over a cup of coffee. And I find that if you can get to the end point, it'll be friendly.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Whereas I think many, many years ago, look, I guess I wasn't nasty, but I was pretty headstrong and not flexible. If you're not prepared to be flexible, you're going to get nowhere fast.
Well, you'll miss out on opportunities that could be very lucrative because you're a little bit short-sighted.
And it also sets you up for the future, because if you've handled the first one correctly and you're friendly and it's a win-win, you'll find that's a template for the future for you to go and do other deals as well. I mean, I had a recent one where someone needed some money and they were prepared to give security. Now, I could have easily said I want 20% interest, but I could see through the numbers that it was just not going to work out for them, that they were going to go broke within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So you just can't do these things. I mean, I've heard of people lending out money at ridiculous rates and for the benefit of killing the other person. You just don't want to do that. And once that goes out in the marketplace and you're known for killing these transactions, you're not going to get far. It'll catch up with you.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. It's not like, I know ethics don't always play a role in these things, but I think they should. But I think they should.
Yeah, unfortunately they
don't.
So
but I like to operate really ethically and show empathy to the not the opposition, but the other party, because it's just good karma. If you do good by people, and it doesn't mean you're overpaying. It doesn't.
No,
sometimes.
I mean, no one overpays, Mark. No one overpays.
You do come across people that overpay.
Oh, that's because it's lack of due diligence, or they don't have the skill set, or they haven't done the research. But you'll find in most situations...
Or they've just got so much money and they don't care.
Really?
Look at the housing market. You think people don't negotiate. They just go and buy. They've got a money. They've got a budget. I'll just go buy that. And that's it, right? So
sickening.
I know we're talking about business here, but in negotiating...
It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, the mentality to some people is, I just want it.
Yeah. And I'll pay whatever it is,
Yeah, and so be it cars. Cars is anything that's an emotional purchase that should still be a negotiation, but it's emotional. They don't do it.
Once you let your emotions take over,
you're in trouble.
You're going to lose the deal. You're either going to overpay, or you're going to sign something that you're going to regret. Because it's easy to buy something, but don't don't believe that you can rectify it within 2 seconds. It may be a long process. So you need to do a lot of due diligence. But again, I just find if you're friendly, the vendor...
Well, it doesn't cost you anything to be friendly, does it? So what's the benefit of being aggressive? This is what I learned, right? Why be aggressive? Why come across as a dick when you could just be yourself?
Do you reckon Trump's a dick? I mean, he speaks tough.
Is he a dick? I think he's in the dick territory.
Yeah.
But he's very arrogant and self-confident off the charts, right? So he walks into a room thinking he's superior to everyone in that room.
But why do you say that he's arrogant? I mean, he's seen the stats, he's seen the figures, he's seen the trade imbalance. But why is that arrogant? I mean, I
think his conduct is arrogant.
His conduct.
Yeah. So what he's targeting and what he's trying to, that's not arrogant, right?
Right.
But his conduct at times is arrogant. You know,
interesting.
Like if he doesn't like you, all of a sudden he doesn't understand you, doesn't know what you're saying, you're stupid, go away, you're just part of that media over there and whatnot. So he's not, he is combative. Like he's not always passive. He's combative.
But don't you want a strong leader?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Arrogance has two mothers, right? There's arrogance that is really condescending and people really turn off it. And at times he's had that. Then there's the arrogance where you're just really self-confident here. And it comes across as arrogant, but as like, don't muck around here. I know exactly the situation here today. I know exactly where everybody sits. I know what you're going to say and do. And so let's just do it. Let's just get it done.
So his comments some time ago where he said all hell's going to break loose. Have you heard him say that?
If they didn't give the hostages back.
Yeah, he said all hell's going to break loose. That takes balls. I mean, I don't think that's arrogance.
But he hasn't followed through with it. Hell hasn't broken it. He doesn't have the hostages yet, and hell hasn't broken through. Broken out.
Do you reckon he's closer than what Biden was?
He may be, but if you start making threats and don't follow through with them, that's where you got to be careful, right? So that's when you start to lose your invincibility, your awesomeness about what you're doing. Because if you make threats and you don't follow through, then no one believes your threats. So you got to be careful you don't make threats that you're not going to really follow through. Now, he worms his way out of it saying, I was just joking about that. Like, as if I'm going to start another war. I'm trying to get rid of the wars, not start wars.
He's a peacemaker,
So, then he'll turn it into a funny thing or whatever. But you got to be careful when you start throwing the gauntlet, be any level of life. Don't bluff. There's a time to bluff. And he plays a great game of bluff. We're going to be a pretty good poker player. But sometimes when you bluff, you get called out on your bluff. You either laugh or you follow through with what you're bluffing.
Interesting.
And he can't follow through. He can't press that button. He can't do that.
Well, again, I don't want to... I'm not a big fan of politics, but if we go backwards, Biden, prior to Biden was Obama?
Trump.
Oh, was Trump? Prior to him was Obama, and then you had the Clintons.
Yeah. I think that's correct. I'm not really big on the American history, but
yeah. But American politics is in our face all the time.
Only if you wanted to.
Oh no,
I don't really see it on ESPN, mate.
I don't watch it on EPL either. But he's the only leader in my eyes that's starting to make an impact. I mean, if I go through the Australian Prime Ministers, right? Albanese, who was prior to Albanese? Was it Scott Morrison?
Yeah.
Was Scott Morrison?
Yeah.
And prior to that was...
Gillard and
Rudd?
And Elmer Fudd, yeah.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. None of them have made any impact.
No, but probably real change hasn't happened. I don't know. I'm trying to think back of all the prime ministers. But John Howard.
Yeah, John Howard
made a lot of change.
Stable hand, yeah.
Yeah.
Keating.
Who came after him?
Was it?
Did Keating come after Howard? Did he?
No. Keating was before Howard. Then there was Gough Whitlam.
No, that was before.
Yeah, that was
who's been after? Like when I say after, more forward looking.
So after
Howard, when John Howard, so then it went to Costello ever become Prime Minister?
No, he should have.
Didn't.
No.
So Howard went that extra term and then lost.
Yeah.
Who did he lose to?
I can't remember. That's how much we care about Australian politics. It's irrelevant.
There was Hewson, there was Beazley.
But it's irrelevant.
No, but
because there's been no change. This is my point. There's been no change in Australia because they lack the skills that Trump has.
I'm not saying that's not correct, but what all the governments, whether you're Labor or Liberal, is irrelevant at the minute. What in the last, I'm going to say 20 years, without any evidence to support it, but I'm just going to say 20 years, no one's had the mandate to make the changes that are. Everyone's had to cut deals with the independents, with the
Greens,
the Greens.
Yeah,
to make government, be it Labor or Liberal, they had to cut deals with people that compromised what they could or couldn't do. And so I'm hopeful on this next election, there's a clear mandate from the electorates across the country for change. And so give
Dutton the House and the Senate.
Give him what he needs so he can orchestrate change. And if he stuffs it up, all right, we vote him out. But because I'm not a staunch one or the other.
Neither am I. I'm a swing voter.
I probably swing more towards Liberal than I do Labor, but I'm not. So I don't support them. If they're no good, then it's time for change. But in voting for what's it called, the Bushfires Club and they're just a little independent out there. The Sex Party, this party, that party.
Yeah. Meaningless.
Like, I know it's a bit of a protest vote, and that's why people do it. But they actually hurt. Now, I'm not saying if you gave Labor everything and what they would do, would we be in a better position? Who knows? I don't know. I'm not in any way, shape or form expert on politics in Australia or the States. But what I do know is if you're running companies and you've got your hands tied behind your back, government's no different. You can't operate efficiently.
Yeah, true.
Because you've got to keep too many people happy.
Yeah, true.
Whereas if you can just be open-handed and no shackles and do what you need to do, then it comes down to, okay, who's a good leader and who's not. At the moment, I'm not sure anyone can really lead properly because of all the deals they have to cut with all the minorities. And so I think that's a key. Outside of negotiating skills, it's the landscape is a bit
Have you ever met a really rude person when you're negotiating?
A rude person?
Yeah, rude, like really dogmatic, hard, difficult to communicate with, but you need to get it over the line.
No, I killed the deal.
Oh, you just walked away?
So I had a deal where, like, I'm a pretty ethical guy, right? So when you do what's called a non-binding indicative offer, it generally has price and terms and conditions, everything in it, right?
But it is non-binding.
And it is non-binding. I get that.
Do you want to explain what non-binding is, Mark?
So basically non-binding means you enter an agreement. The things that are binding are confidentiality and exclusivity, generally. Everything else is non-binding. And then, there's the parameters of a deal are in that document, such as pricing, earnouts, structures.
Where you can move to a binding agreement.
And so what that enables you to do is to spend money on a due diligence process where you check all the numbers, check taxation, check whatever you want to check in that business. And then you firm up your offer based on those due diligence findings. Now, I can. There's not even on a hand how many deals I changed from the non-binding stage to the binding stage, because you do a fair bit of work up front, and then you do your due diligence to confirm everything. But if you don't find anything like of a material nature, I was a big believer, I'll honour the non-binding document rather than use the due diligence as a process to change the deal.
Because most people do exactly what you've just described.
Well, I haven't had a lot of experience of that. And I've been on the buyer side, right? So it's, because I'm the buyer, well, probably doesn't have a lot. I haven't sold many businesses compared to buying them, right? But I did have this one, and I'm not going to name any names, obviously, but I had one, and the board was really supportive of getting this deal. They knew him and whatnot. And so we put a non-binding offer to him, and he and his board agreed. And then we start doing our due diligence. And before we'd even finished our due diligence, he gives me a call. We have a chat, talking about different parameters of the due diligence and whatnot. And he starts saying, "Oh, look, when we get to the next stage, we're going to have to discuss this and discuss this." And it was all to do with the price and this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I said, "What are you talking about?"
That's already been discussed.
We're, like, our offer is our offer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but that's just to get things started. Like, we've still got to do the real offer.
Oh, really?
I said, no, it doesn't work like that, mate.
Yeah.
I said, if I find something material in our due diligence that means that, we have to change the offer, then that's our right to change the offer. But in my mind, if I don't find anything in due diligence, then the offer we've agreed upon is the offer that goes forward. So we don't use due diligence and waste my time and effort and money for you to think that's another stage of that's a process. And everybody does that. I said, no, not here. Here we don't do that. So I went back to the board. I said, we're not doing this deal. And the board said, but we want to do it. I said, I don't care. We're not doing it.
Yep.
And I said, these are the reasons why.
Yep.
And we were doing, at the time, 4 transactions at once.
Yeah.
So we just dropped it to 3.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't even call the guy. I lost all respect for this guy. So I just emailed him. I said, I had a chat to the board. We're out. These are the reasons.
Yeah.
All the
See you
best.
later.
All the best.
Yeah.
So this guy goes and has a sook to the chair.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Goes
Jeez.
to my chair. Goes, you can't do this, and you can't back out, and this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, the chair came back to me. He says, do you reckon you could give him a call? I said, no, I moved on.
Yeah.
And, thankfully my chair had really good support. Didn't try and, we always had open communication, but if my mind was set that I was not, I'm a very, as I said, I think I said in one of these episodes, I'm almost a zero strike. If you prove disloyal, dishonest, whatever,
you're out.
I'm out. I don't want anything to do with you. And so that's probably, he wasn't aggressive, but he was unethical in my eyes, because a handshake is a handshake, and that means something to me.
I'm a bit like that too, but unfortunately the world doesn't work like that, because my experience has been completely the opposite, that we agree on something with a handshake, you go out and you do your due diligence. It doesn't matter what it is, and all of a sudden the price increases by 30%. And we've just agreed on the price 2 weeks prior to speaking again. These sort of things get me really, really upset.
Yeah, they roll me.
It's just, but unfortunately, these are the sort of things that happen. One thing that I have,
but you've got to walk away.
No, you do. One thing that I have learned is that I won't allow lawyers or accountants to negotiate on my behalf.
Oh, you can't?
Because what happens then, if you think it's difficult or trying to do a deal between two parties, we spoke about being friendly, or if someone's being nasty. Once you get a third person involved, I don't care who they are, you're actually, your chances of success diminishes by about 95%. That's been my experience.
No, I agree with you, because what buyers and sellers don't do is to communicate to their lawyer.
Yep.
And it's more the lawyers that cause these problems.
I've been involved with accountants as well.
Accountants cause more problems in the due diligence stage. They don't really get caught up too much in the legal, the share purchase agreement. They're not that involved in that part.
But you're talking about a listed world.
No, even private world.
Okay.
In a lot of my private transactions, I had to deal with the accountants and the the normalizations, the one-off transactions that you back out, all this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they play funny games and all of that, and they get in the ear of their client. Sometimes it's fear of losing the client. Sometimes just trying to be, one-upmanship. But when everything's agreed there and you move to the legals, my history is that the accountants don't get too involved post that, other than working capital calculations. Whereas the legal guys, if you don't give them the brief, this is the deal, and just protect me for the things that are important, but the things that are not, I'm not going to die in a ditch over. Let's not
complicate it.
We're not here to get a pound of flesh out of every situation, but protect me, right? You're the lawyer, protect me. I can't tell you how many people don't read what's sent across, and this is the buyer or the seller. They don't read it, and then the solicitors, they get hourly rates, 500. I think it's up to 750 these days.
It is, but I don't mind them.
But they're just playing table tennis, negotiating things that these two people don't care about.
Yeah, correct.
Sometimes it's to do with consultancy agreements, because you're moving from an employee to a consultant under the arrangement, so you can do the transition period and they can terminate you whenever they want. The things that these people verbally agreed is not reflected in the agreements going across, because no one spoke to the solicitors and told them this is what we agreed, and I don't want any deviations from that. And it could be simple things, but they derail deals. They build angst, they build distrust between the two parties. So I get, and you can't control it. I control my side. I always say to my solicitors, I just want the stuff that matters. And I do read. I don't like reading much, but I do read the key points in the agreements before they get handed across, just to make sure that what I've asked for is reflected in it. I don't start and put mayonnaise or gravy on top of the requests. The biggest issues are always like warranties. So when you sell a business, you're warranting that what the person's buying is in the state that they're buying it. So you don't have tax issues, you don't have this, you don't have that, because you haven't disclosed it. As long as you're reasonable about those things, then they work out. But sometimes solicitors say, no, you can't agree to that. Like they'll do this and they'll do that. And
this is why I think you have to be friendly with someone who's sitting opposite you, because if you're not going to be you can have a conversation with him or her and saying, look, I think we can get along with each other. I think we can nut out a deal that's fair to you and I. I'll usually tell them where things usually go wrong. If I go to my lawyer and you go to your lawyer, they've got no vested interest in your business. Somewhere along the line, I usually say they're going to stuff it up. So I usually plead with them, can we just keep it between you and me? And if we agree, then you can go see your lawyer. Maybe there's something that I haven't seen, maybe something that you haven't seen, and we usually get over the line. But once they get their lawyers involved from day dot, it's like, that's a red flag.
Oh yeah, you can't. They can't be a day dot. So the lawyers have to be when all the commercial terms are agreed upon,
Correct.
and that's when you get the lawyers involved. But I had like, there was a transaction, I'm going to say maybe 3 years ago, where I was the client was the seller for me, and that client's solicitor was passing on judgment on the buyer and giving advice to my client. I don't think you should sell the business to them. I don't think this. I don't think that.
There you go.
And it was like,
there you go.
And so, like, you got to be careful. Like, you feel like saying, mate, you can't be saying those things.
Yeah.
Like, there's no more heightened and emotional situation than the legal agreement stage in a business sale, right? People care about stuff that 5 minutes later they don't care about. Because I can't tell you how many times you sign a deal, you get it all done, the agreements go in a drawer, and no one ever looks at them again.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you have a problem, you just talk to each other and you solve the problem.
Yeah.
But people get so heightened, and it's all because of the solicitors create a lot of drama in these things, and if you get a really dogmatic type solicitor that feels like he can make a lot of money from creating issues in stuff that doesn't require the issues, and I'm being very generalistic here, I'm not singling anybody out. Then that can be really problematic, and it's not their role. Their role is to, like someone makes the emotional decision to sell their business. They want the outcome, and then in their minds they've spent that money. They know, like, whether it's set them up for life, to have a family, to go on holidays, to pay their house off. In their mind, they've done that. They don't have the money, but right. And so then someone fueling that emotion and saying these people are crooks and these people this and these people that, that's not the role of a solicitor. So I agree with you when you say that those professionals can really, stuff up a deal.
I think that, as I said, the key takeaway is to be friendly. You cannot lose by starting off being friendly. You can be diplomatic, you can be sensible, you can exercise common sense, you can do non-binary deals, binary deals, you can do all that sort of stuff.
Binary?
Yeah, you can do binary deals too. Yeah, you can do binary
Aren't all deals binary?
That went over your head. But I think at the end of the day, people seem to feel by involving other professionals, they feel somehow that they're more protected.
Yeah.
And in the end, I mean, I've got hundreds of examples to give you. It usually ends up at a real bad place. I've seen someone go virtually broke because he took the solicitor's advice.
Yeah.
It's a really simple example. In fact, it's not even worth discussing the business because the lawyer believed he could get much more.
Not their role.
And the guy was on the brink. He was actually on the brink.
That's not their role.
Correct. And he could have been saved, but the lawyer talked him out of it, only to find out a year later he went into administration.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And that's bad advice. Like it
is.
Your role as a solicitor, unless you're being engaged for the M&A negotiation, but like most solicitors don't get engaged for that. They get engaged for the agreement itself. That's not their role.
I just wonder how Trump's going to do with all these deals that he's doing. I think he's going to get great outcomes. I don't know. I just have this feeling.
Well, he's got a good aura about him at the moment,
Yeah.
and he's in this honeymoon period where everything he's touching is turning to gold, so to speak.
Something's going to blow up.
Yeah, he won't care.
Yeah, I just
He
wonder
doesn't
about
care.
that. I mean, everything's rosy.
He actually operates in a world where if it goes pear-shaped, so what?
I just wonder about that. I mean,
Yeah, but it's not like you're thinking he's going to cause chaos. Like you think he's, when you say
so what
something
happened in
might
Canada,
go wrong.
So what happened in Canada? I mean,
but did you not find it ironic that it was people like Canada and Mexico that he was the hardest at, as compared to China?
Yeah. No, I do.
It's not stupid, right?
No, he's not. But I think a couple of weeks ago, when he mentioned that there's going to be a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods. The Canadians, what they did, they stopped buying American. So when they went to a Costco, which is an American company, or American Nickel, whatever it'll be, it just stopped. So if this escalates worldwide, I'm telling you, there's a big thunderstorm coming from everywhere.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is everyone's going to know, okay, it's a tactic to get to the table and discuss.
Don't be so sure about that.
It is. Why didn't he do 25% on China and only do 10%?
Why did he do 25% on China?
No, he did 10% on China. Why didn't he do 25% like he did Canada and Mexico?
Oh, you can say, I mean, playing the devil's advocate, China can turn around and sell $800 billion worth of bonds and just dump all the bonds over one night and watch their interest rate, their 10-year note go sky.
So what does that tell you?
It tells me that he hasn't got as much leverage with China as what he has with Canada and Mexico.
So he adjusts.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so I think you've got to give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah, he does.
So it doesn't mean he's not going to be a wrecking ball, because it is his strategy to be a wrecking ball and then hug everybody and say, let's sing Kumbaya and fix this situation, right? And the end of it, he's in a better position for the country.
Right.
And probably personally, potentially. But as a country, he's in a better position than he was before he caused the chaos. It's just his way. So can things go wrong? Absolutely they can. But when the previous government were doing nothing, that wasn't going right either. So
that's right. When
go hard or go home is the saying, right?
If you keep on doing the same thing, you're not going to get a result. At least now we're seeing some change.
And he's going hard, right? So when you go hard, there will be some collateral damage as you go along. But I reckon he's surrounded by very clever people this time around. Same as they're now getting a little bit more serious about crypto. Crypto's not a dirty word anymore. Crypto is okay. How do we make it work? He's got
how do we regulate it?
But in a way that doesn't disrupt everything and whatnot. And they're starting with stable coins. I was reading the other day, which we've already discussed.
Yeah, we have.
And so when you surround yourself with clever people and you're brave, which he is, you can say he's cocky, but he's brave. He's very high conviction in everything he does, right? The people resonate with that. And so one of the things we have here in Australia, and it was probably happening in the States, is talent vacuum. Like politics doesn't always attract the best of talents.
Isn't that obvious?
Yeah, but
isn't that obvious?
But that seems to be something he's changing. He's attracting talent. He's attracting people like Elon Musk, right, who actually care about their country. They're very clever. I don't know how he finds the time to do all the things he does, but he must be a master delegator. But he's very, he's engaged. And
do you know when he bought Twitter or X?
Yeah.
He paid like bonds of dollars on it. He overpaid too much. In his first, what did they say? In the first day that he walked in, he sacked 80% of the employees just to find out that the 20% remaining were doing a better job than the previous.
Yeah, and that's all to do with that zero cost budgeting model that he does. Right? He really subscribes to rip it to its bones, and then if there's gasping, we'll re-employ back in there.
And that's exactly what he's doing now to all the bureaucracy.
He's cancelling contracts, cancelling credit cards, cancelling this, cancelling that.
Why isn't that happening here?
Because you have to have a mandate to do it. No one here has got the mandate to do it.
But what we found out in Victoria, Labor had a mandate.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
They were they embedded with the Greens. They're embedded with the Teals. They're embedded with this.
I think that was the second term. The first term, I think they had a mandate, Mark.
I can't remember, but you either have a mandate and you have the right leader with that mandate, and maybe we had a mandate first off and didn't have the right leader. I don't know.
That's the key. You need the right leader.
But this time around over there, and I'm hopeful it'll happen here because we're getting to that level of despair like Americans were getting. So it's going to be interesting whenever there is a vote. You could see the most recent by-elections here. There was massive swings.
Yeah, massive.
And so generally that's a sign, right? It's funny how we get an interest rate cut straight after that. But generally that's a sign of the electorate's unhappy. The electorate's feeling this pain of cost of living going up, and handouts are not going to fix it.
No, definitely not. Anything else that you can comment about negotiating outcomes before we close off this episode?
Yeah, so the one thing I'll leave everybody with is there should never be a negotiation that you can't walk away from.
Interesting.
Yeah, because if the other party feels that they've got you and you can't walk away, then you've got to be careful you don't just hand leverage to somebody else. Yes, you might not have the leverage yourself, but you can't just hand it to the other party. And so a bit like the guy I mentioned that was a bit unethical and whatever, he thought because I'd already got board approval and I was already communicating it to potential cap raising,
for more money.
He could squeeze, right? And he did it with the wrong person on that day because I was not afraid to walk away. Same as when you get to the legal agreements. Sometimes people go too far and they have their solicitors are over eager that we've just discussed and whatnot. So I've had situations where I've said to the other party, I rang them up and I said, look, I'm out. Your solicitors, it's just too hard. I can't work with this. I like you. I want your business. I want to work with you. Yeah. But if you're not prepared to stand up like I'm standing up to mine, to just get the stuff that matters to you and not the rest of it, I'm out.
And hence why you have to be friendly, because you wouldn't be able to approach that situation.
To be honest, I don't care if we're friendly or not friendly. I'm going to have that honest conversation with you. And if you don't care, then you don't care. Yeah. So I'm not sure being friendly or not being friendly would have a different outcome there. But you got to demonstrate, even if you really want it, right? Even if you just desperately want this deal, you have to walk into a room that this is a nice to have, not a need to have. And so never display that you can't walk away. You have to display that. That doesn't mean drift to unreasonableness. It just means be fair. Everything's fair. But if the other party starts to overreach on the things they want, you have to put your hand up and say, I'm out. Awesome. Doesn't mean you can't come back, but don't be afraid to walk away from a deal.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Good on you, mate.
Thank
Cheers.
you.